This episode explores how mindset determines success, resilience, wealth creation, leadership, and personal growth, and blends science, psychology, entrepreneurship, and real world application into an engaging 30-minute podcast designed for ambitious people trying to break out of limitation and achieving many meaningful goals. Welcome back to the Taillight Podcast, the show for people who are tired of living the life in neutral while staring at the taillights of somebody else's success. I'm your host, Steve Unruh, and today we are going to talk about something that every successful entrepreneur, athlete, military leader, investor, and high performer eventually realizes, whether they know it or not, or they specifically train for it. Your mindset is either building your future or it's destroying it, right? Not your talent, not your luck, not your circumstances. It's your mindset. It's right between the ears. Because two people can experience the exact same hardship, the exact same market, the exact same economy, and the exact same opportunity. And one person builds a future while the other one builds excuses. Why? Why does that happen? Mindset. It's a mindset, how they view things. It's your perception. Today, we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down in why mindset matters scientifically, go over a little research for it that I found, and what research actually says about growth and performance. Why fear and self-doubt destroy momentum, and how elite performers actually think differently. Why do they think differently from the people who don't perform? And why your environment matters. Not the one you grew up in, but the environment you create. And why most people, here's the last one. Well, it's not the last one thing. Why most people sabotage themselves. And but most importantly, how do you train your mind the same way you train your body? How do you do that? And today's episode is not motivational fluff. I'm not going to give you a bunch of quotes. We're backing this with research from psychology, behavioral science, and real world application. Because mindset is not magic. It's conditioning, it's practicing, it's programming, it's repetition, it's showing up every day. And the beautiful thing about programming, it can be rewritten. So wherever you're at now, you can rewrite it. So let's get into it. So the first thing is the invisible force. What's the invisible force that is keeping you where you're at? Most people, they will spend their lives trying to change outcomes before they change their identity. Think about that. They change their outcomes before they change their identity. That's backwards. Who are you? Where do you represent? What are you doing? Because your life usually moves in the direction of your dominant thoughts. Now, let me be clear on something. Positive thinking alone is not enough. I know some people believe this, that you can sit on your couch and things will magically appear and you can manifest. No. You cannot sit on your couch, think happy thoughts, and things magically become wealthy. That's nonsense. I'm here to tell you that. But your mindset determines whether you take action, whether you persist. Remember, persistence beats resistance. Whether you adapt, and whether you learn anything. And whether you recover from your setbacks. Whether you see an opportunity or you see danger. Right? That matters. Mindset matters. And that matters a lot. Now, we all know Henry Ford once said, and he probably stole it from somebody else before him, but we started writing history down, and we had to recite this at the academy every day. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Simple. That quote has survived generations because people instinctively know it's true. Mindset becomes behavior, behavior become habits, and habits become outcomes. And eventually, outcomes become your life. I didn't say good or bad. An outcome is an outcome, and it came from your habits. And the scary part, what's the scary part? Most people never consciously examine the programming running in their head. Instead, they inherited it. Where did they inherit it from? From their parents. Their parents are talking to them, telling them to do this. Teachers telling you, coaches, society. Which turns into fear. And they say it's trauma. Trauma is a programming. Failure, you failed at something, right? The media is programming you. And eventually, those simple beliefs become internal laws. They become something you won't break. Like, how about this one? I'm bad with money, so I can never do this. Okay, well, you're right. You said it. You are. I'm not smart enough. Well, okay. You're the first person to call yourself dumb. I'm too old. Okay, great. You are too old. You can't do that. I missed my chance. Oh, boy. I heard that. I missed my chance. There's never going to be another one. People like me don't become successful. Who is people like you? Well, when you say that, you're right. The internal dialogue becomes a prison, and it becomes a mindset that traps you in that area. And most people don't even realize they're locked inside of it. So here is the science of growth mindset. Some research that has backed this up. One of the most influential psychologists in the world, Carol Dweck, she has spent decades researching achievement and human behavior. And there's other ones too, but this one here is most recent, I think. Her work led to one of the most important concepts in personal development: the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And listen to this very carefully. Where do you see this pattern at? Think public schools. Intelligence is fixed. Ability is fixed. Failure defines you. Challenges threaten identity. A growth mindset, different. Skills can improve. Intelligence develops. Failure teaches you something. It doesn't scorn you because you got a D. And effort creates progress. You keep coming up there, persistence beats resistance. That single shift changes everything. In school, you're taught this is who you are, that's what you are, and that's what it'll be. Tests and everything. You are now put into a box. So they did a study, and one group was praised for their intelligence. You're so smart. Just catch them. You're smart. You're smart. You're smart. You're smart. The other group was just praised for effort. Didn't tell them about how smart, whether they were doing anything else. You're working really hard. You're trying to figure this out. And something fascinating happened. Guess what? Got any guesses? Who do you think did better? Well, I'm setting you up. The students praised for intelligence became more afraid of difficult challenges because failure threatened their identity. Think valedictorians. The students praised for effort became more resilient and willing to attempt harder tasks. They felt like they had nothing to lose, and they knew it was their effort that was reward. Think about how powerful that is. The people who believe growth is possible become more capable over time because they continue engaging with difficulty. Difficulty stops being evidence of weakness. Difficulty stops being evidence of weakness. It becomes evidence of growth. That changes your entire mindset. That changes your entire relationship with failure. Failure now becomes a lesson if you just keep swinging away every time. So how do you literally rewire yourself? Here's something most people don't understand. Your brain physically changes based on repetition. Think about it. Either being brainwashed one way or another, to being bad or being good. That's called neuroplasticity. You isolate somebody, you can isolate yourself, and you can change your mind. The brain is not static. It adapts. It's constantly malleable, which means your repeated thoughts literally strengthen your neurological pathways to where you want to go. In simple terms, when you repeatedly think, becomes easier to think who you are. That's powerful. That's big. but it's also dangerous. Remember, like I said, it works on both sides. You can be brainwashed to good or bad things because somebody constantly rehearses fear, or you got somebody in life that pumps fear into you. That will be strengthening, especially if you're listening to them. If somebody constantly rehearses excuses, well, their prominent thing will be excuses. They'll be more creative in excuses than anybody else will ever be. So that becomes strengthened. If somebody constantly rehearses confidence and disciplined action, those pathways become very strong. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks extensively on this concept. So do neuroscientists studying habit formation and cognitive conditioning. Your brain becomes so efficient at whatever you repeatedly practice, including negativity, including self-doubt, including procrastination, including self-deprecation. That means mindset is not just philosophical. It's actually biological. And that's why environment matters so much, because your environment feeds your mental repetition. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, fear, gossip, everything else, hopelessness, and victimhood, well, that's exactly what you're going to be. If that's what you like to do, that's what you're going to be. Your mind will absorb it. Your mind will become it. It doesn't know the difference. Even if you don't say, well, I don't mean it. Well, your mind doesn't know the difference. I think Bruce Lee said that. And it just becomes your normal. That's why high performers guard their environment aggressively. I have people I call, Max, Jimmy, right? Mike, all these people. There's 3. Surround yourself with 5. I got 2 more. That these people I surround. So so why do successful people think differently? Why do they? Not like why, and there's a question is like why. One thing I've noticed about successful people is this. They think differently about problems, about obstacles, about some sort of adaptation that need to get through. Average people see obstacles as, well, can't do that. I'm done. Stop sign. It's a roadblock. Not doing it. Successful people start seeing the wheels turn. Puzzles. It's like doing an investigation. How are we going to get past this? That's a massive difference. Huge. We're going to go through it, round it, up, over it. We're going to do it. That's entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur experience failure constantly. I wouldn't even call it failure. I call it adaptation. Like deals collapse, clients disappear, markets shift, people quit on you. You can quit on other people, it's not good for you. Plans fail. But entrepreneurs who survive interpret setbacks differently. They do. Instead of saying, this proves I just can't do it. I told you I couldn't. I didn't need to go through all this to tell you that I was worthless. They actually go, well, what is this teaching me? How can I learn from this? That question changes everything. What is this teaching me? So psychologists call this cognitive reframing, cognitive mapping, kind of reframing. The meaning you attach to an event determines your emotional response to it. 2 people lose money, right? One person says, my life is over. Another one says, tuition. In other words, what did I learn out of that? One becomes bitter. The other one becomes wiser. Same event, same everything, different mindset. That's why mindset is so powerful. It determines interpretation. And interpretation drives behavior. That is the big thing. Interpretation of how you see things drives behavior. It's your perception. So the military and sports and the performance connection. How does the military and high achieving athletes connected to performance? What do we get out of that by researching them? And some of the strongest mindset research, comes from the military and sports psychology. Elite military units spend enormous amount of time training mindset under stress. They push them on not to get them necessarily physically fit, but try to get them mentally prepared. Why? Because people do not rise to the level of their goals. They don't. People go, I always rise to the occasion. now you'll fall to the level of your conditioning. Okay, that's true. And that's why realistic scenario training is so important. Put yourself into the pit. Don't just constantly read books and say someday I'm going to pull the trigger on this. That's why decision making under stress truly matters. That's why repetition matters. That the same thing exists in athletics. I think the Olympic athletes go through a lot of visualization before they do a performance, before they do a competition. You see them do it all the time. Watch the Olympics. It's not because it's magic. It's not because it's voodoo or anything. It's because mental rehearsal improves neurologically familiarity to that event. So they have shown that it activates many of the same neural pathways when they try to visualize what they're going to be going through. Like, see a person go luge, you watch them, they'll kind of go through that whole thing back and forth. And Muhammad Ali, he even agreed with this. Of course, he was a guy that believed in get over everything. He goes, once you do affirmations, they become a belief, and the belief becomes a deep conviction on thing, and then big things begin to happen. Now, some people hear affirmations and they roll their eyes. They go, oh God, here we go. But the reality is everyone uses affirmations. You use it every day. But our brain is wired to use negative ones to protect us. Don't do this, don't do that. Hey, I'm exhausted. I'm broke. I can't. I don't have the money. I'll never succeed. Don't even try. They're protecting the energy of you. Or wait, I'm too late. Those are all affirmations too. And the brain listens to it. It doesn't know the difference when you say, well, I could never do that. I think I probably could, but I could never do that. I mean, I don't really mean, I'm not serious. Well, your brain doesn't know the difference of that. Why most people never achieve their goals. Here's why. Well, this is what I think. One of the biggest reasons people fail to achieve goals is because they are emotionally attached to comfort. They like to sit on that couch. They like to be fed the paycheck. They like to be fed a lot of things. But growth requires discomfort. You want to run the crim? You got to get out there and run. It's unavoidable. Every transformation requires temporary discomfort. You want to be physically fit? You got to get out and run. You want to be better at business? You got to take some risks. You got to do something, invest. You got to take some. You got to learn something. Get out there and put your money at risk. Public speaking, it's got to go beyond just visualizing people naked. You actually got to do something. Leadership, you got to prepare when somebody tells you no, right? On the other side of being blessed, is hardship. It is. On the other side of being blessed is hardship. But modern society worships comfort. They worship convenience. They worship entertainment. They worship distraction, YouTube shorts, 5-second clips. They want the dopamine. They want to feel good right now. And over time, people become emotionally weak. Let's face it. They do. They don't want to have they don't want to hear the long story that could actually teach them something. But discomfort is often the doorway to growth. David Goggins said, the only way to grow is to embrace suffering. And you do. You have to get through that. Now, that doesn't mean unnecessary suffering. I wouldn't, stand out in the cold unnecessary just to get my point so you can get tougher. But it means that understanding that challenge is part of transformation. That muscle grows through resistance. That character goes through resistance. Your faith grows through resistance. If you aren't challenged, how are you going to grow? Confidence will grow through resistance. And this is where mindset separates people. Because one person sees a challenge, another one sees challenge as training. Okay? So the power of identity. This is the power of identity. Here's one of the most important concepts I can give you on this right here, identity. Lasting change usually happens through identity shifts. Not motivation. Motivation fades, and it fades very quickly. Think of New Year's Eve resolutions. Identity endures. For example, A person trying to quit smoking, try to quit drinking, may say, I'm trying to quit. Okay, you're trying. Another one says something completely different. I'm not a smoker. See the difference? Those are psychologically different identities. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. One still sees themselves attached to the habit. Like, yeah, I'm trying, but I failed. I'll go on again. Keep quitting. Ha ha ha. The other one changed their identity. No, I'm not a smoker. I don't need this. The same applies to success. If somebody internally identifies themselves constantly as a victim of X, a procrastinator, or a failure, or I'm an outsider, I'm not in that group, well, get in that group. They'll always be out if they always feel it. They'll feel it. Everybody feels it. It always feels weird if the person doesn't think they belong in the group. Eventually, the behavior eventually will follow if you change your identity. But when identity changes, behavior starts aligning with it. It always does. That's why successful people often begin mentally before they arrive physically. It's all wherever the head goes, the body will follow. They start viewing themselves differently, not arrogantly or anything, but intentionally. Like, I belong in this room. This is where I am supposed to be. So mindset and financial freedom. Mindset and financial freedom. Mindset also determines financial behavior. Mindset determines financial behavior. Poor financial habits are often emotional habits. Fear of losing money, feeling of scarcity of money, or impulsiveness to money, easy come, easy go, short-term thinking. Meanwhile, wealthy thinking usually focuses on long-term decisions. How is this going to benefit me in the long run and everybody? Do I own anything? Is there ownership involved in this? And can I delay gratification? I don't need to be gratified by it now. And are we investing? And is there any kind of leverage we're getting out of this for future? And am I developing a skill? Am I growing? Now let me clarify something real quick here. I'm going to clarify. Being wealthy does not automatically make someone wise. Doesn't. And being broke does not automatically make someone lazy. They don't. But mindset absolutely influences financial outcomes over time. One person spends every raise upgrading the lifestyle. They'll buy the new boat on credit. They'll do this. They'll do that to look rich. The other one buys assets. One person consumes, another one builds. One person waits, another person acts. And eventually, these little decisions that are made impulsive or thought out compound. They do. And that's why mindset is directly connected to freedom. Directly connected to freedom. Because mindset drives decisions, period. And decisions compound into outcomes. And those decisions will make you or break you. So the environment changes everything. The environment you create changes everything. There is no way you can consistently think differently while living inside the exact same mental environment. Can't do it. This is why environment matters so much. Jim Rohn, he famously said, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. I know, something like that. Now, maybe that's not mathematically exact, but we got 5 fingers on a hand, so it makes sense. But psychologically, it's incredibly true. Who do you hang out with? Who influences you on a daily basis or whatever? People normalize the standards around them. If everybody around you complains, complaining becomes normal. If everybody around you avoids risk, fear becomes normal. If everybody around you builds businesses, studies investing, reads books, and pursues growth, all that becomes normal. That's what they talk about. If you waste your time and you hang around friends that are just playing video games and waste their time watching YouTube shorts, that's what you'll be. That's what you're going to become too. That's why masterminds matter. That's why that's why mentorships matter. And honestly, that's why some people must completely change their environment if they want a different future. Period. God, I'm saying period a lot. But there's a lot of these, if you want a different life, you have to get out of the lifestyle you're in. If that doesn't include the lifestyle you're already in. So here's the role of discipline. Mindset without discipline becomes a fantasy. That's tough. You think discipline is like, oh, I can never be disciplined. Well, that's your first mistake. But eventually, actions matter. It's the small things repeatedly, repeatedly telling you that you are going to do it. Consistency, persistence beats resistance, because consistency matters more than intensity. Showing up every day. One disciplined action repeated for years becomes a transformation. And this is where most people fail. They don't want the long haul. They want emotional motivation every day. They feel that they got to be pumped up. That is so unrealistic. Elite performers do not rely on emotion. And you're not going out there redlining hard RPM in it, thinking you're going to get going. And that's just the way it's going to be. It's not. You get burned out. They rely on systems. You got to get habits. You got to get structure. You got to get routine. And discipline creates confidence. And everybody loves confidence. You can feel confidence walking the room, all across the room. Because every time you keep promises to yourself, self-respect increases for yourself, and people feel that. Every workout you do, you complete it. Every difficult phone call, you got to make. Every uncomfortable conversation needs to be handled. Every disciplined decision reinforces identity. That's why discipline is freedom. It creates momentum. Persistence always beats resistance. So here's my closing message. If there's one thing I want people to understand from today's episode, just one thing, it's this. Very simple. Your mindset is not fixed. You can train it. You can mold it to become stronger, to condition it, to protect, but you should protect it. It's very important. You got to understand what's being fed into it. And it can be, and eventually you will transform it. But transformation requires awareness. You got to be aware who you're hanging out with and what you're feeding it. You must become conscious of the voice running in your head. And that concludes others' voices. Because the greatest battles most people fight are invisible. I say it all the time. The devil's talking in my ears. And he will try to come after you and try to destroy your life by being a sloth. And if you constantly tell yourself that you're trapped, defeated, incapable, or powerless, eventually your behavior reflects it. The devil will do that to you. I really believe that. But the opposite is also true. When you begin conditioning confidence in action, growth, ownership, resilience, persistence, discipline, taking control of your life, think about long-term thinking, being a leader to yourself, your life begins changing direction. But it's not going to happen overnight. Don't think this is going to be 7 days from now, you're going to be different. You're going to get everything you want. And eventually the results become visible. Not overnight, but steadily. So if you're listening today and you're feeling stuck, you don't know, you're like, I can't get out of this rut. Understand this. Your current situation is not necessarily your final destination. Your mindset may simply need a new direction. I appreciate every one of you listening to the Taillight Podcast. I really do. If this episode helped you, share it with somebody who needs it. And remember this one thing. Well, remember a lot of things. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your greatest limitation. Until next time, stay evidence driven, stay disciplined, and keep building a future that lets you sleep well at night. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.